Hi, this is Erica Goodrich, and I am presenting a subject guide created for a Legal Research Basics workshop, which is designed for first-year law students at the University of Miami School of Law. This guide will introduce students to essential primary and secondary legal resources that are used in legal research. It also introduces students to validation codes for print sources and citation services in Lexis and Westlaw. In creating this guide, I took a constructivist approach. That is, I wanted to draw on students' prior research knowledge and use it as a basis in which to construct the main tenets of the legal research process. To begin, I created a Start Here tab rather than a Home tab. Since I am trying to really establish this idea of legal research as a step-by-step process, I wanted to make a point on where students should start. On the Start Here tab, I included a basic outline of what will be covered in the guide. I also included a brief overview of the three main steps in the legal research process. Additionally, I include my contact information as well as a student survey, in which, if we were in session, I would highly encourage students to utilize. Tab 2, Secondary Sources, is the first step of the legal research process. In my experience, students tend to start with primary sources, so I wanted to order secondary sources before primary sources to get students in the habit of starting with these secondary sources. Here, I provide a brief overview of what secondary legal resources are, their applicability, and what will be covered in the tab. I also make a note of saying that the resources covered in this tab are not comprehensive. I want students to know that there are many other secondary legal resources to consult. However, the two in this instruction are really great places for them to start. Further down the page, I include separate boxes for each of the categories covered, the legal encyclopedias and legal treatises. Each box contains a description and application of the resource. I also include hyperlinks where appropriate. At this point in instruction, I would include an activity for students to open Lexis or Westlaw and have them find an analysis on a legal issue using one of the encyclopedias. Ideally, I would also bring a print copy of the encyclopedias to the instruction. I found this to be a great teaching opportunity on when to consult print resources, especially when unfamiliar with the organization of an online version. Finally, on this tab, I have my contact information, database search tips, and a student survey. Tab 3, Primary Sources, is the second step in the legal research process. Again, I begin with a brief overview of what primary sources are and their applicability. I also include a visual on the process of primary authority and hyperlinks where appropriate. Further down the page, I include instructions on locating primary source items at the law library with hyperlinks, and another box with two online databases, FDsys and Thomas.gov, which provide free access to primary legal documents. And finally, I have my contact information, a student survey, and a quick rule of thumb. The last tab reviews resources for validation. This is the final step in the legal research process. Keeping uniformity, I include what validation codes are and their applicability. In the middle column, I include citation resources in both Lexis and Westlaw, what they are and why they are important, and the codes themselves. I also included YouTube clips for each of the databases, which I thought complemented the tools presented very well. And then on the left-hand side, I include validation codes used in print resources and a student survey. Finally, in closing, I wanted to point out the main reason I chose to include a survey on each page. Mainly, I feel feedback is perhaps the most important aspect of an instructional session. I created this guide based on what the law librarians have discussed and information I gleaned from other subject guides and presentations. However, the most valuable data for creating a useful guide is feedback from my students, hence the survey on each page. Thank you so much for your attention, and I hope you enjoyed this presentation.